Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine land. And my name is Todd DeVoe, and I am the host of Business Continuity Today, the Director of Emergency Management at Titan HST, and I also teach at the post-secondary level where I love to learn new things and share with you what I've learned. And today, we're going to talk about the art of cyber exercises. Excuse me. So, in the old days, creating an exercise was a lot of work with pen and paper and, or computer, and creating a spreadsheet of measles and injects and all sorts of things like this, which that's saying that doesn't happen today and that aspect of it, but it's really changed. And, sometimes the cyber exercises were created around the CIO and then bringing in different departments and that were aimed at identifying individual skills and skill sets of the organization. However, today, we really need to be focusing on teamwork. The most advanced version of cybersecurity exercise is to emulate a real attack aimed at an infrastructure that is owned by the company, that's going to impact other people, that will really bring scrutiny down onto the organization. This requires a lot of financial and technical resources when you do something along those. And also specialized hardware and software that performs the tasks and things that repel the attack. And so that's kind of the idea behind it, but it doesn't have to be that crazy. We're going to get into a couple different things right now. So there are two types of exercises: the theory and functional. And a theoretical exercise is, we call that a tabletop exercise, right? And it's aimed at sitting around at the tabletop, right, and discussing potential things about the organizational tasks and practice to make those decisions. And I really find that this needs to be your first, second, and third step before you get into functional exercises, because you really need to hammer out what your decision-making process is at the tabletop. People sometimes scoff at the tabletop and they think it's a waste of time, especially some of those that are in the C-suite that are very busy. But it's really important to bring them into the conversation as well. Not just the CIO, but your CEO, your COO, your CFO, all those C people need to come at the table and sit down and really discuss what's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, if we don't walk through that, right, you won't know what to do on game day. Now think of this as in the football, right, where we get the playbook and we have to read the playbook and understand each play. So when you get in the huddle and they say, hey, we're going to run a 32F, we know what everybody on the team knows what that is, right? That's this idea. And then the tabletop exercise is doing that chalk talk prior, right, to getting into that field, right? You're looking at the chalk talk, you're bringing the whiteboard out and you're drawing the X's and O's on the board, and your defensive coordinator is, going through what the defensive schemes are. Your offensive coordinator is going through what the offensive schemes are with X's and O's and drawing arrows and talking through that and visualizing what you're doing during that time. And that's exactly what a tabletop exercise is meant for, right? It's meant for drawing out and visualizing how things would happen on game day if something occurs. Now, once you get a tabletop down, right, and do a couple of those and get those underneath your belt, then you move into the functional drills. It involves more technicians who sit with a simulated environment to practice actions in the event of an incident. And these are also, you can look at hybrid cybersecurity exercises that affect both the management and the technical aspects of things. And that's where you go into realistically that big idea of bringing in like injects and all those type of things. So cybersecurity exercises can be classified by scale. So the objective, right, industry specific, cross industry, and then regional or international, right? And so I suppose in some cases, if you're a larger company, you might want to look at some regional or international attacks, right? So say you do have regional centers, right? And those get hit. Or does that, if you're a supply chain guy, say for instance like FedEx or a large multinational company, I don't know why I picked FedEx out of the air, but I did, and you have places all over the place, then you need to take a look at the international aspects of things, right? So there are no really bad forms of cybersecurity exercises. Any activity where employees gain new knowledge of your systems and what to do, that's what you really are looking at. And again, I've talked about this before, right? When you're looking at design and an exercise, you don't want to design something, right, that is automatically everybody gets their slaps on their back and says you did such a great job, right? If there are failures, you learn from those failures. I think it's important to fail fast and fail furious when you do so. And like look at those things, take this deep breath, step back, right? Evaluate where those failures came from, whether it's decision making from the top or whether it's the tools that you're using. Where is that failure point? And that's only going to make you stronger and better when it comes into actual game day with a cyber attack. Now, I think it's really important for us to step back here right now and discuss this concept. We talk about cyber attacks as if they're something that may happen. I really believe that it's any organization out there. I mean, heck, I'm talking to you through a computer right now, right? We're all vulnerable to cyber attacks. And we've probably all had some sort of cyber attack one time or another. Maybe you might even be under one right now and you don't even know it. They're talking about something along the lines, it's like 6 to 8 months in some cases before someone even knows that there has been data breaches due to clicking on malware or something like that in an email. It doesn't necessarily quite hit you right away, but is insidious and gets deeper into that. And so you might be underneath an attack right now and not even know it. So understanding that we are all vulnerable, right, to these attacks. And I know we have great groups of people, both in the private and public sector, that are working hard to really stop and curtail these attacks, but they're out there and they're happening. We think, when I say we think, because you take a look at estimates, right? An estimate is something that you're thinking about, that we're going to see an increase in cyber attacks specifically due to international players that are looking to get into American corporations and to American government, right? So we're seeing more and more of these, and I forget there's like something like a 20 to 30% increase in cyber attacks this year. So it looks like it's going up. So you really have to play these out. Whether you're a small corporation or a large corporation, you really need to know what's going on. Now, one of the things, and this is my favorite part to play when we're looking at exercises, is red teaming or red selling, right? And so this is, think like the bad guy. How would you break into your systems? Because that's what they're doing. That's what the bad guy's doing, right? And so understanding that and red selling that, I think, is a lot of fun when you're practicing it, right? When you're on the red sell, but it also creates a real world training for those that are going to be part of the response team, right? And so which is called the blue cell. And so on one hand, so you're testing the vulnerabilities of your system by thinking through that, right? And so the red cell team really should be made up of experts in that particular area. So your developers, your web engineers, and so forth like that. If you're a technical firm, those are the ones that should really be working on that red cell. And so they can know the ins and the outs of what might really be hit. And then you bring this out and you play this out part of your measles, if you will, part of your master event sequence list, MESL, right? I always get that one mixed up. But you go through that, and then you go in through, then do your thing. So is it possible to carry out cyber training on your own without involving third-party experts? Absolutely. Right? Depends, again, how big your company is and how large you want to go. But you can always keep things in hand and do it so forth, right? Because keeping it in-house and keep it in your hands, right? You know your systems better than anybody else. Now, there are some really cool advantages to going outside, right? Number one, you bring in experts that can evaluate your system from the outside looking in, and sometimes they see vulnerabilities that you don't see, right? I tell people all the time that when I'm writing, I'm always so deep into the forest, I can't see the trees. So I love to get a second set of eyes on the work that I'm doing. So they can see where I'm missing or where my gaps are. And so bringing experts to the inside really help find those gaps sometimes. But on the other hand, having internal experts, making your plans and doing your exercises, it also helps you understand your system better, right? Helps them understand the system better. And hopefully, although they might not see the gaps all the way through, if you have a big enough team and a dynamic conversation, you might be able to come across those gaps. So how do you carry out these cyber exercises? And then at a minimum cost, because you can get really expensive, right? Plan it out, right? Go back to those tabletop exercises that I was talking about right? And have that, what's your end goal? What are you looking, what are you testing at the end of the day, and understand that. And then you could really pinpoint that training specifically on that particular goal that you're looking at, and actively what areas that you really would like to see improvement on, and practice through that. And those answers will largely determine the ways that you're going to, spend your funds on that exercise. And there's a good methodology that identifies the goals. So in some cases, before running those cyber drills in an organization, it's helpful to conduct a security audit in order to identify those weaknesses, right? So again, your red cell team is conducting that security audit to find those weaknesses, and then you should practice to those as well. As noted earlier, there has to be a level of maturity in the company that you aren't afraid to fail, right? Because if you have a company that's afraid to fail, you're never going to truly test it and what's going on with it. And at the end of the day, if that's the case, don't even bother doing exercises, because you aren't trying to exercise to get congratulations and pats on the back, right? So what are we doing here with these exercises? Well, we're preparing for an unknown attacks. All right, we're looking at our vulnerabilities, and we're really trying to train our staff and our members of our organization on how to be better at what we do in protecting not only the data internally for ourselves, but also that of our customers and those of our future customers. I want to thank you all for listening with me today, or listening to me today, and spending time with me today, because I think it's critical that we look at this from the outside sometimes, and seeing how we can improve. Training and exercises don't have to be boring, and they don't have to be mind-boggling, right? They can be fun and they can be interesting at the same time. So hopefully you learned a little bit today. And if you guys are planning on doing some training and exercises, please reach out to me, because, oh, you know what? I always like to hear what people are doing and learning from other people as well. So until next time, please, everybody, stay safe, stay hydrated.